television played a huge part as we grew up. However, depending on where we lived or our social circumstances, we grew up with different programs and different films. When I was growing up, most of the film and television that I was brought up on were old British kids' TV shows, Disney films, and a lot of Robin Williams. But there was another sort of film that I was really into: claymation films. To be more specific, stop-motion films. Stop-motion animation has intrigued me ever since I was a little kid, and some of my favourite YouTubers are stop-motion artists. However, while I was growing up, claymation played a huge part of my childhood, especially the works of Aardman. Now, if you guys don't know who Aardman are, they're an amazing UK-based model-making movie production, and they've made some great shows like Wallace and Gromit, Shaun the Sheep, Angry Kid, and another really good movie called Chicken Run. And whilst I really enjoy claymation, one of the big problems that I've always had with claymation was that I thought it was a genre that was too family friendly. Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean I don't like claymation films. It's just that I thought it would never go as far as to make a film specifically for adults, and would rather be more lenient towards kids and adults. However, that was all changed when I saw Mary and Max. Mary and Max is one of the most unique films I've ever seen in my life, for its story, for its design, for its themes, and only after seeing it about 5 times, it's now become one of my favourite movies ever. But why is it one of my favourite movies ever? Well, let's take a look at it. This is Mary and Max. Let's start off with the main characters. First, there's Mary Dinkle. When we first meet Mary, she's an 8-year-old girl living in Australia. Her father is a teabag worker who also works in taxidermy. And then, of course, she has her alcoholic mother. She's very lonely and has no friends, and upon an incident at the post office, she comes across the address of an American man called Max Horowitz. Immediately she writes to him and hopes to become a pen friend. Once he starts writing back, Mary and Max form a huge friendship that's tested by emotion, by disability, and by many other consequences that come through their way. One of the things that I love about this film was that it had really good moments of both drama and comedy. There was no character that was simply, oh, this one's going to be the most serious, or this one's going to be the most comedic. They had a perfect balance, and I love that with these kinds of films. I mean, Mary was simply amazing. I mean, she grows from this little 8-year-old girl to this insecure university student, having to deal with the pressures of love, of university life, of bullying. I hardly ever see some films that portray little girls like that, or life growing up like that. Then again, I think I might have been watching too many Disney movies during my childhood. But my favourite character in the film, of course, is Max. Now, one of the reasons I love Max so much is because I feel a connection with him. Now, one of the main themes about this film is autism, and one of the huge parts of this film is Max's diagnosis with Asperger's syndrome. Now, for those who don't know, when I was 3 years old, I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome myself, and I could see elements of myself within Max. And it felt so good. Not only was I seeing a film that tackled the issue of Asperger's, but I was seeing a character who I was able to associate myself with. It was just amazing. Now we come to the design of the film. Oh, and how amazing it is! Australia and New York both have distinctive looks and distinctive design patterns. Mary's Australia is quite colourful, though with shades of brown. While there are colours like grey and black inside, you still have the shades of brown, which represent the life around Mary. However, even though she is still lonely, you can still see the vibrant colour of life around Mary as her story gets told. In New York, however, everything is black and white and grey. And I love this contrast, comparing Mary's life in Australia to Max's life in New York. Of course, the black and white style aesthetic may be something to do with Asperger's, seeing as the fact that Asperger's people often need things to be black and white, to be clear as crystal. And that is a really, really good design choice. And the only bit of colour that comes into Max's life is when Mary sends him a pom-pom and puts it on his yarmulke. I mean, that kind of design is just brilliant. And I thought that was a beautiful representation with the pom-pom. Mary brings colour into Max's black and white life. Again, the designers did an amazing job, and with the characters too. However, I do have to comment, Max does look a little bit like a black and white Shrek. And then of course there's the story. Oh, good grief, how I love the story. It's paced well, the characters are well developed at their own pace, there's no rush, and again, it's a story I can associate with. Loneliness, misunderstanding, bullying, many things that I myself have had to endure. And one of the other reasons that I think I can fit in really well with the story of this is because there's kind of a similar story to me right now. It's being written out right now. I might as well tell you about something that's going on in my real life so I can associate with the film. Last year, I started writing for a role-playing site called Storybrooke Live. I already mentioned this in my 2014 year in review video, but I thought I'd go into more detail. One of the other writers, we started writing a story arc together, and then we started moving out of just keeping our relationship strictly professional, and then we've become like the best of friends. Her name's Maggie. Oh, and she is one of the most amazing people I've ever met. And for more reasons than one. Not only is she like an American counterpart of me, she's changed me. She helped me to lose so many of my anxieties. She's changed me for the better. Her coming into my life is one of the best things I could have asked for. Maggie, if you're watching this by some amazing miracle, I want you to know this. You are my best friend. And I could not thank you enough for coming into my life, for changing it like this. Thank you, Maggie. As I said, with both characters, the story too has elements of great seriousness and drama, as well as great moments of hilarious comedy. Again, it's well balanced. There's no bias towards Australia or New York, whoever is more comedic or serious. It's well balanced. Oh, and the ending, I loved it so much. The final letter that Max sends to Mary, it's so heartwarming. And that statement, you are my best friend, you are my only friend. Oh, how beautiful that is. I've been searching all this time for a movie that was for mature audiences. It was made in claymation for mature audiences. And it pressed all those buttons. It could tell such an amazing adult story, but it also had some amazing funny moments. That is why it's one of my favourite movies ever. I think you guys can guess what I thought of the movie. It was simply amazing. It's one of my favourite movies of all time. It had amazing characters, an amazing story that I could relate to, characters I could relate to, and the design was simply amazing. And the symbolism it brought was pretty cool. I would give this film a 9.5 out of 10. If you have Asperger's, if you're feeling lonely or you're just going through a dark spot in your life, I really recommend you watch Mary and Max, because it will change your life forever.
You are my best friend. You are my only friend.